A familiar foe has jumped into the race for Carter Gooden, Boston College's highest rated recruit that they have left. Can Bill O'Brien hold off his former mentor?
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day, a free podcast that you can get on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. I am your host, AJ Black. I'm the editor of Eagle Insider, the premier Boston College website where you get your scoops, analysis, and everything else. But I've also been the host of this show for 5+ years, giving you daily Boston College news and analysis you won't find anywhere else. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA. You can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Check out FanDuel right now. On today's show, I have a special crossover episode where I'm joined by Matt Sheehan of Locked On Spartans to talk about BC and Michigan State. Now, this isn't going to dive into like preview stuff because some of that stuff can get boring. We're talking about where's Michigan State at? Where's BC at? What is going on between these two schools? I think it's going to be an episode you're going to really enjoy. But before that, I want to talk a little recruiting talk because Boston College is in the midst of trying to land, as I said before, one of their highest rated recruits of all time. And that is Tabor Academy defensive end, Carter Gooden, who is upgraded to a 4-star, rated 70 in 247's rating system. You know, people are like looking at this and going, how is BC going to even be in this? Well, Carter Gooden had, I think, 7 or 8 official visits. He's visited Arizona State. He's visited UCLA. He's going to come back east now. And there's a lot of news that broke this week. And Brian Doan of 247 had a few nuggets that I think are really interesting and worth talking about. Now, BC gets Carter Gooden, I think, last. But one school that was scheduled to get an official visit it appears to be pulling back, and it's a big one. It does not sound like Penn State will be a factor in this. And for those out there, this is big news. Penn State, say what you will about them, James Franklin is one of the best recruiters right now in college football. And to get him off is a good thing. But what's really interesting is that there are 2 new teams that are going to get official visits from him. And there are 2 teams worth talking about. One is Michigan. It looks like Michigan's going to potentially jump in. They were watching him practice, and I'm sure if you watched him practice, you're going to want to get him in for a visit. The other is UNC. So let's talk about Michigan first. Michigan has been the bane of BC's existence since Don Brown left Boston College in 2015 and has been stealing local recruits since then. Obviously, Ann Arbor is a very attractive place. It's only 4 hours from where Carter Gooden is actually from. He's from Canada. That's a tough one. That being said, Sherrod Moore is good. He's not James Franklin good, though. I gotta say that. So replacing Franklin potentially with Sherrod Moore is better for BC, in my opinion. Yes, they get to play, in the big house and 10,000 people. That's a big deal. You gotta, money could be a factor too. But I would rather have my chances right now, just right now, against Michigan than Penn State. So that's going to be something worth watching. And there's also the potential Michigan may not jump in. I mean, Michigan is the mecca of getting all these good, defensive linemen. So they may not even need Carter Gooden and may not even offer him. So that could be a potential thing to watch for too. The other name, though, to watch for, and the one that we love talking about here, is UNC. This will be, I believe, one of the first real battles between Bill Belichick and Bill O'Brien. If you remember over the winter, before all the Jordan Hudson nonsense, Bill Belichick did a barnstorming tour through New England. He went through every school. I think he met I forget it was Dean. I think it was Dean Rixnitis. the guys over at CM. He's trying to, pump his rings around and to get everyone to pay attention to him. And it didn't seem like much change. But clearly Carter Gooden got Carter Gooden's attention. Now, UNC has been in the news for a lot of things. Obviously, Bill Belichick's girlfriend issue has been one big thing, and I'm not going to get into that because that's a whole other story, and we're not TMZ. The other piece was Mac Brown's comments that I just saw on, I think it was on 3 Had It earlier today, which said, Bill Belichick is getting a lot of opportunities because he's getting more money to spend on NIL, and they lowered academic standards at UNC. So that's a great school to go to. A school that's just going to let anyone in and they're going to pay you a lot. The other piece that I thought was really interesting about Gooden was that NIL is important, but it's not a breaking point. A lot of kids, that's interesting because, yeah, obviously money is going to be important to some extent, but how much of it? Because if you have a kid that's saying, I'm out there to get the most money I can get, BC is not going to be your school. It's just not going to be it. But if it's important, but not the breaking point, that seems to me like BC could still be in there. So where is BC in with Carter Gooden right now? They're one of the finalists to get official visits. It's going to be UCLA, Arizona State, Syracuse, UNC, potentially Michigan, and I think Rutgers. So not the most the worst chances of BC getting him, but also they got some work to do. Will Boston College get him? This is the story to watch for the next month. Him and Marky Walbridge. Those are the two I want to watch most. So we'll have to wait to see. Now, in a moment, it's time to get into the crossover episode. Matt Sheehan is going to join me. I can't wait to talk to him about the Spartans. This is one of the most fun games of last year. Where are they at now? What are they going to bring to when BC comes over and plays them in Michigan? We'll wait and see. I'll talk about that in just a moment. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you can stop managing your money and start building wealth. For me, I wanted to make sure that I was checking out how much I was spending on going out to eat with my family. I go out, it's like a weekend tradition for us. But hey, I was also realizing I was spending a lot of money. Well, with this, I can actually show my wife how much we're spending. We can make a plan together and boom, it's a better thing for our relationship and it's easy to use. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for your first part of the year. Welcome back. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black, and here is my crossover with Matt Sheehan.
Folks, Matt Sheehan of Locked On Spartans over there, AJ Black of Locked On Boston College, and you might think, isn't this a little too early to be breaking down a game that's going to be happening in more than 100 days from now? But please, come on, guys, never. Now, AJ, Week 2 for our Michigan State Spartans, obviously pretty early in the season for you guys as well. What are the stakes going to be for the Eagles in this game? Just take us away.
So it's week 2. Yeah, BC starts the season off against Fordham. And that's one of those games where you just really can't get a gauge where BC's going to be at. So this is really like the first test. This is like, there's going to be a lot of changes. BC doesn't have Donovan Nazaraku anymore, who, was All-American. What's the defense going to look? I know, right? Yeah. What's this defense going to look like? We won't know in week 1 because it's Fordham. So I think on the road where BC struggled last year, the offense, will it click? Where the offensive line looks a lot different? Will BC be able to put together a game plan that could lead to a win on the road? I think that's going to be something that we're going to be watching for.
And for the Michigan State side of things too, like I hop in the time machine, and this is only a few years ago, but we had a home series with Arizona State where before you look at it, it's like, we're not going to sharpie in the wins, but this is a home series that Michigan State should certainly take care of. Kind of in a way where, hey, Boston College, okay, of the Power 4 teams, those are gettable at least. All right. Like, this isn't a home and home against Georgia. All right. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
We could get both. And, well, so far we're 0 for 1. And then, well, if you go 0 for 2, that's not going to spell good things here for Michigan State. Also, just the vibe around the program, too. Like, there is a lack of juice around this program, AJ. And if you want your fans, if you want the energy to get back into East Lansing for the first time since 2021 when Kenneth Walker was running the ball, you do need a win against Boston College. Not to say it's going to make or break the entire season and all the goals this team has laid in front of them, but you cannot, absolutely not, be 1-1, or dare I even say 0-2 at home 2 weeks into the season. So that's what the stakes are here for Michigan State.
Yeah, I mean, I have to imagine the optics around losing to BC, and I'm not doing this to bash BC. I just know where schools are at, right?
Sure.
To lose the way you lost last year with,
Tough.
it was a very, very tough loss, right? Like you had that last minute touchdown pass and interception in the end zone. To do it then to follow that up with a home loss to BC, I think that would be a real tough pill to swallow for Michigan State fans.
Yeah, and look, I didn't come on the show, happy that we lost or anything like that, but that was one of the losses. It didn't take me so long to get over because Childs, he threw 3 interceptions that game. It probably should have been 8 if you watched that game. They had a lot of passes bouncing off BC defenders' hands, but it was also the storyline of, young quarterback, one of his first starts, especially on the road. Okay, you know what? He learned a lot from this one. He tried to do way too much. He will learn from this, whereas now, that's out the door. None of those storylines are around. This is an experienced quarterback now. You cannot have growing pains, especially at home. And I would imagine, and I would hope, I'm going to start doing my anti-rain dance right now, that it won't just be a soggy evening or afternoon whenever they play this game. So,
God, I remember I was there covering that game, and I'm looking at all the fans, and I had a couple other media members that went to go visit a friend or something, and he came back drenched.
I'm sure he
and
did.
I was like, oh man, those are the worst as a fan, and I'm sure the players didn't like it that much either.
Yeah, right.
But it was also the red bandana game too.
Yep.
And that obviously has a lot of special meaning to BC. So that was a real, like, an interesting night. I don't want to say weird because red bandana is not weird. Rain,
of course,
night game. Just an odd ending to that game. It was interesting.
A lot of circumstances, yeah. So one reason that, we're going to get you and a bunch of other Power 4 opponents experts on this show is just to check in how everyone did in the offseason. Because, of course, this day and age in college football, what you do in the spring and the winter is almost as important as it seems of what you do in the fall. So, AJ, point blank, broad question here. Did you guys get better this offseason? Did it treat the Eagles well?
So, before I came on the show, I was thinking, how do we want to approach this? And BC played Michigan State so early in the year last year. And I was almost wanted to do a segment on, so what happened after that? Right. So, because it was a very eventful end of the season for BC. You saw Thomas Castellanos, he throws the game-winning pass. He quit on the team. He got benched. He's down in Florida State now. And honestly, you asked the question, did they get better? Without Castellanos, and I've knocked him enough. I don't need to do it anymore. I think BC's better without him just because he wasn't the right fit. Like, he just could not. He's not a passing quarterback, and that's what Bill O'Brien wants. So BC they bring in Grayson James at the end of last year. He wins 3 out of his last 4 regular season games, gets the offense clicking. They almost beat SMU on the road. They look pretty good. He's not the most explosive quarterback. He's more of a game manager.
Okay.
Does some things right. They go in the offseason, they go to Alabama and land a 4-star transfer that Bill O'Brien had committed to Nick Saban and Dylan Lonergan. And you know what? You see the stories of 4 stars that don't play, and then all of a sudden, you're like, why do they get that? I was skeptical. I was like, is this guy going to be anything like what you expect him to be? Like, is he going to live up to that? He did. Like, this spring, he very, very much is in contention to start the season. I don't know. O'Brien has not said who's going to start for BC. You can make an argument for both. And that's going to be something to watch. And I think this is a really interesting storyline for BC and Michigan State. I was talking to somebody on my show the other day, and we were saying that the Fordham game might honestly be an audition for the two of them.
Okay.
where one of them starts the first half and one plays the second half.
Yep.
And then Michigan State could be the first game where BC has an established starting quarterback. Will it be the experienced Grayson James, or will it be that one with the higher ceiling in Dylan Larnigan? We'll find out. So I think that's the big storyline around BC going into the season.
Sure.
I think it does make them better, but there's, as I said, there's some other pieces that are concerning too, like losing Ezeraku. They lost 3 offensive linemen to the NFL draft.
Yep.
There's some other pieces. So I'm not sure if they're better, but I think that they're in position to, there's different things that you'll see that I think will be better than what they
that's where we all are right now, like us bloggers, podcast hosts, or you do great work at 24/7 Sports, of course. Like we're just in like there is reason to believe mode right now.
Exactly.
Hopefully we'll get a few more answers when August rolls around and you start getting more clips out of fall camp and everything. But like there is reason to believe. But there's going to be a step forward for the quarterback position for Boston College there. Really quick, you said that you've hammered on the Thomas Castellanos thing, long enough, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask, because I think this quote came out within the last week. Mike Norvell lauded Castellanos for his leadership, just how great of a teammate he is. When I read that, I said, when I talked to my good friend AJ Black over here, I got to ask him his thoughts on that. Did you fall out of your chair reading that, or?
I can't tell you how many people I texted that with a couple emojis after that going, what? Sure. Like, this dude just quit on his team. Like, he literally got benched and then said, peace, I'm out. And there's no other way. In his own words, he said that. He said it himself. Like, after the end of the season, I got bashed by a bunch of people. They're like, oh, you got to hear what his perspective is. There's probably another side of the story. I'm like, sure, whatever. Castellanos was on, I think it was one of the, Eric, what's his face, McLean. I think he was on his show, and he said, I got benched, and then Auburn called me, so I entered the portal. I'm like, so you quit.
Well, there it
you
is.
did it. It's right there.
Yeah, that's nice. Great.
So, yeah,
awesome.
I whatever. Like, he's going to be fine in Florida State, know. Like, it's Gus Malzahn's a better fit for him, and I wish him the best.
Sure. Very, very diplomatic of you. Look at that.
I had to say this too. I was a quick side story.
Sure.
I one game a year I go as a fan I'm a BC grad. I take my kids. I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. My kids loved him.
Okay.
2 weeks before he got benched, I went to his NIL store and bought both of my kids Thomas Castellanos shirts because they both wanted them. They have not worn them once. And then last week, I was telling my wife I want a solo stove for my backyard. My 6-year-old, I don't know where he picked this up. I go, yeah, we got a lot of like leaves and stuff back there. He goes, yeah, and I can burn my Castellanos jersey. I'm like, okay. All right.
Yes, he is ready to be a sports fan. Oh,
He's ready.
Love that. Oh, I love the energy from that kid. That is excellent. We had a few Michigan State fans that they frequented the NIL store, especially at the end of the season. Got a shirt for Trey Holloman. He was a basketball player here. Did fantastic things, and then 2 days after the season's over, sayonara. Yeah, NC State. So the NIL store. Get on over there and spend all your money. It's never to be one to backfire.
Exactly.
So. Perfect. Look, I'm glad you did mention the offensive line because I did want to get to this, and this is just because, well, that's really what helped you guys last year, really strong offensive line, and that's just kind of known under Bill O'Brien coach team is that you will have an adequate, at worst, offensive line. Three to the draft, right? Or at least 2 were drafted, and then another one was an honorable mention. Any way you slice it, like 3 really good offensive linemen. Is there like youth right behind them that you feel confident in? Did you guys have to go out to the transfer portal and shop for a few linemen, or what's it looking like in the trenches? Because us Michigan State fans have learned the last few years how important it is to have a good offensive line. It's been just a great lesson we've had to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I look at the offensive line, it's all about development. And you go, if you look at BC, 2022 was a complete disaster, and it was because of the offensive line. They had a new offensive line coach, Dave DeGuglielmo, who was part of, he's to the Patriots. He had this huge history.
Gotcha.
Just didn't click. And a lot of the guys that you saw last year were there when he was there, and they were young. Matt Applebaum, who was with the Miami Dolphins, he's been with BC for years now. He develops guys, and I think he does a really good job of developing guys. So he's got, just watching the spring, I think the system is there where you're going to get the next guys up. And you've got like a Jude Bowery who played last year, was banged up a lot, but he is very, very talented at left tackle.
Okay.
You've some other guards coming up as well. Will they be as good as last year? Because I thought the offensive line did really well last year. I don't want to say that they're going to be that way, but I also don't think they're going to be a major hindrance for BC. I don't think it's going to be like something that's going to hamstring them this year. I think it will definitely be a step back, but I think the talent is there. And you mentioned about the portal. They really didn't do much. They grabbed a kid from Merrimack who's an underclassman, but again, developmental player. He's going to take probably a couple of years to get in. And then they got and I haven't been able to see him yet because he hasn't played, a kid from Princeton, a center from Princeton, who was a grad student. So he's more seasoned. But he's like a lot of the Ivy League kids that come in, they don't come till the summer because he had to graduate. So he didn't practice this spring, so I don't know what he's going to be like.
Interesting. So on the defensive side of the ball, and I've tried to pronounce this guy's name just in preparation for this. Ezeraku, was that his name?
You got it. Yep.
Okay.
Nailed
it. It's probably only because he had 18 sacks against Michigan State last year, and it was on the screen every other snap, basically. But like that's a pretty sizable drop, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Where does the strength of the defense lie now that he's out the door?
Yeah, I mean the line I think is the biggest concern on BC on the defensive side. Like you got Quintavious Hutchins, they call him Q. He lined up opposite Ezeraku. Second half of the season had a pretty good start, but I need to see it again. That's a group that deep inside of me, I'm going, are they going to be able to do it? The secondary, I mean, you saw at the end of the game. Max Tucker. They're getting Amari Jackson back. He played against Michigan State last year, then blew out his knee like a week or two later. He was one of the starting corners. But their safeties are really good. KP Price is probably going to be all ACC, and Carter Davis and Omar Thornton. So they got a lot of good talent in the back half. I think the secondary is, I feel, the most confident in. And they've got a really good linebacker in Davion Crouch. He had 14 tackles in the Pinstripe Bowl. And he's a good player, and I think this is going to be a big year for him.
Man, this is just, we're two peas in a pod right now because our defensive line is probably the biggest question mark on either side of the ball going into this season. They left a lot to be desired last year. They were third worst in the Big Ten at sacks. I think they went 6 games in a row at one point, AJ, without a sack, and that was the longest stretch in FBS football for like the last 20 or 25 years. So we did history here last year. Woo, it was great, but they did very little in the portal. They got a lot of project developmental kind of scratch off lottery ticket pieces. Like one guy's a 4-star from Wisconsin. Great. Never played a snap there in his 1 year for the Badgers. They got a guy that, played sizable amount as a redshirt freshman, but from Air Force of the Mountain West. That's going to be a little different than, Big Ten ACC football. And we got to see something here. And, you look at what you want to see in week 2. Obviously, for us Michigan State fans, we've been jaded by the offensive line in years past. We want answers on that immediately. But, yeah, even against Western Michigan, our week 1 opponent, if we ain't getting to the quarterback there, if we're not going to get to the quarterback against Boston College, who's still kind of breaking in a new-ish offensive line, I mean, look, point blank, the road doesn't get much easier after that. You got to see something from the trenches here. And I know it's the least sexy thing to talk about in football is just the hogs in the trenches. But my God, we have learned over here in East Lansing how important that is to football.
Just watching it was the lesson you get from watching that Super Bowl, right? What Philly beat the snot out of Kansas City in the trenches on both sides of the ball. And you talk to good coaches and they'll tell you, it's those two spots that are in a good quarterback. They're going to be the keys to winning games. So, yeah, I can totally see that.
Yeah, because our offense hopefully should be decent enough. I mean, like we said, Aiden Childs, he comes back for another year as a starter. He was very raw last year, especially the last time he faced the Eagles. You talk loosey-goosey with the ball. Ooh, he was winging that thing all over the place.
Yeah,
no regard to humanity. It was dangerous. And I do think he really did learn from that game. His turnovers did take a turn south, for the better for Michigan State at the end of the year. But yeah, you got to hit the ground running. You got to have early chemistry, not just with Nick Marsh, who's one of the better receivers that we'll see in East Lansing, but also the new guys, Amari Kelly, Christian McCray. Can he get early chemistry with those guys going? So I'm just so excited to get answers from this game, assuming, knock on wood, we get by Western Michigan as 17.5-point favorites, but never say never, I guess. But I need answers, AJ.
You know what I was thinking of too? You just mentioned all your wide receivers. That was the other key of that game too. I remember before that game, there was like injury reports, and it was like, I think like 3 or 4 in Michigan's top 5 wide receivers were out.
I was playing slot receiver that game. Like that's how desperate they got. They called me and said, "Can you drive over here in 6 hours?" I said, "Yes, I can." So that was bad. Yeah, I know. Oh, great times. I hope for the first time in a long time we're actually somewhat healthy by week 2. Not to say that's like our only issue that we've ever had here the last few years, but that's just been a nice little cherry on top of all the storylines here in East Lansing. So. AJ, should we do this again in like 4 months? What do you think? Like go a little bit more in depth, some more concrete answers?
Definitely think so. We'll talk more X's and O's and what is actually, you'll actually hope. I mean, I doubt it. You know, Bill O'Brien is, well, hopefully he's not going to follow what Bill Belichick's doing right now because.
Ooh, depends. Yeah.
He's, you know, the crazy thing about this whole story is Bill O'Brien's chief of staff is Burge Nigerian, who was Bill Belichick's right-hand man for 30 years. And the joke, like the story right now, a lot of people have been saying it is like he's gone and she's kind of taken that role. And so he's a tough cookie. I've never talked to him, but I know the things that he's put in place, right? So like he's put a kibosh on like I can't talk about who first stringers are and injury reports, and like they're very, very tight right now with that kind of stuff. So hopefully I'll be able to like we'll have the Fordham game, but like maybe I'll be able to tell you who's going to be starting against the Spartans.
Exciting. Look at that. There we go. Perfect.
Yep.
But hey, until next time, AJ, this is awesome. Guys, if you want more AJ Black, he's over there at Locked On Boston College. And for some reason you want more of me right here, Locked On Spartans. Either way you slice it, we do this 5 days a week right here in the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, guys, depending on what time you're listening to this, go enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. Let's take a time to think of those lost, of course. Let's remember the reason for the weekend here. But until then, guys, take care of yourselves.
I was having issues there for a second. So thank you all. We'll be back again on Monday. We'll be talking about BC baseball. There's a new special episode out there for you right now. Make sure you check that out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And we're going to start getting into official visit season. There's a big time for BC football. I think you're going to enjoy it. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247 for my first listeners every day. For those folks that listen to us first every day, thank you. For our everydayers, I want to thank you as well. This is AJ Black. I'll see you all again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.